Win or lose on Sunday, the New York Giants have some big decisions that they have to make regarding the future of the franchise. We'll talk about some of those coming up next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find my written work. And as always, welcome on in to my Blue Crew community members, my everydayers, my newcomers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. Happy to have you. And on today's Locked On Giants podcast, which, by the way, is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today, we're going to talk about some looming decisions that the Giants really need to start thinking about, if they haven't already, that is, regardless if they win on Sunday against the Carolina Panthers in Munich. Now, the three main decisions as I see them, and we're going to talk about each one in the upcoming segments, Daniel Jones, Evan Neal, and Jalin Hyatt. So we'll discuss, where things are at with those players, why maybe they should start to think about doing something with those players, and, the long-term ramifications. So that's what we're going to cover today. Again, welcome on in. Let's start with Daniel Jones. Now, before I get into, too deep into the argument, I felt and kind of got the impression just by talking to some people that if the Giants in these last three games, that would have been the Pittsburgh game, the Washington game, and the upcoming game against the Panthers, if the Giants had managed to go 2-1 over those three games, then chances are we're not talking about benching Daniel Jones or the possibility of benching Daniel Jones, because that would have meant, obviously, that they won. That would have been, obviously, that Daniel Jones and company were back on track. Well, folks, that has not happened. The Giants 0-2 over that stretch, with Sunday's game against the Panthers coming up. Sunday's game against the Panthers, the Giants are favored. They should win. But then again, we've said this before about, the Giants versus Washington, that they should beat the Commanders, and they got swept this year. So nothing is a given with this team. So that being said, you've got to ask yourself, if you're the Giants, okay, you're going into this game against Carolina. Daniel Jones is your starter. How much longer, realistically, can you continue with him as your starter, knowing that injury guarantee is staring you in the face, knowing that the offensive line, ever since really losing Andrew Thomas, has not been as solid in pass protection, and that Jones is getting battered around behind that offensive line, knowing that when he takes off, whether it be on a scramble or a designed run, he fancies himself as a running back instead of a quarterback, and doesn't slide. Instead, he leads with his head and his shoulder. How long, realistically, can you stay with him? All right, win or lose on Sunday, doesn't matter. Realistically, how long can you stay with him? Your season is circling the drain. It's just about ready to slip down the drain, all right? Because mathematically, they're still in it, but they're hanging by a thread. And they're also probably not going to go on any kind of a run to salvage the season. I'd be very surprised if they do that. So if you're the Giants, you got to start thinking about the future. All right. You can't, in my opinion, keep putting Daniel Jones out there and exposing him, and that $23 million injury guarantee. You just can't keep exposing him. And you're basically playing with fire every time you do that. Now, I know head coach Brian Dable has says Daniel gives the best chance to win. That I know that you got to be careful of the message you're sending to the locker room. I get all that, I really do. But you also got to think about the long term benefit of the franchise. And while the numbers won't necessarily cripple the Giants, if your intention is to move on, if you in your mind have seen enough of Daniel Jones, if you're Joe Shane, Brian Dable, and you've said, okay, you know what, great guy, but we got to have a clean break next year. Why would you continue to put him out there and risk that injury guarantee being triggered? It doesn't make sense. So if you're going to make a decision to change quarterbacks, whether it's to Drew Lock, who, by the way, I'm not so sure he's the answer, or Tommy DeVito, who I could see maybe being a better option for the bridge quarterback. The time to do it, folks, is after this game, win or lose, because you've got the bye week. You have now however many days to tweak your, playbook or do whatever you need to do so that the new quarterback, whoever you pick, can come in and hit the ground running. All right. And I say that because remember last year how when Tyrod Taylor got hurt and Tommy DeVito had to come in and they basically had DeVito hand out the ball because the game plan was tailored more towards Taylor. All right. So you don't want a repeat of that. You want to be able to do what you need to do so that DeVito, if he's your guy, can have success. All right. So the Giants, I think, if they're going to make that move this next week, the bye week is the way to go. I think if they make that move, they will probably go to Drew Lock. I don't agree with that. I don't think Drew Lock is the long-term answer. I don't even think he's a bridge quarterback for that. I would go with DeVito. DeVito has shown last year that the game isn't too big for him. He has won some games. And look, if you're looking to provide a little spark of enthusiasm for the fan base, maybe DeVito's the way to go as a bridge quarterback until you can figure out what you're going to do for the long-term plan. But regardless, I would not be surprised if Sunday is Daniel Jones's last game as the Giants starter because for the reasons that I mentioned. And look, it's unfortunate that it didn't work out because like I said, Daniel Jones, good guy, works hard, does everything asked of him. But when push has come to shove this year, ladies and gentlemen, when it has come down time to for crunch time, Daniel Jones hasn't stepped up, not in the way you need your franchise quarterback to step up. And simply put, you have game managers and you have franchise quarterbacks. Daniel Jones has always kind of been a game manager. And the Giants, if they want to be, if they aspire to be in the top upper half of the teams, in the league, if they want to have a shot at winning the division and making the postseason and staying in the postseason, they need more than just a game manager at quarterback. And I'm sorry to say, I don't think Daniel Jones is that guy. So bottom line, folks, if the Giants lose Sunday, I think you'll definitely see, without question, there'll be a change. If they beat the Panthers, I would say maybe Daniel Jones has a 20% chance of remaining the starter. But again, see what you got and start thinking about the future. I'm not suggesting they tank because I don't believe in tanking, but you've got to start thinking about the future if you haven't already. And just sticking with Daniel Jones coming out of the bye against Tampa and then on a short work week against, before you head to Dallas to play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, to me, just doesn't make sense. So we'll see what the Giants do. Obviously, we got to get through the game first on Sunday. So bright and early will be the game, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And I should have my show for you, my reaction show for you by Sunday afternoon. So one of the benefits of starting the games early. So, all right, coming up next, another decision that I feel the team needs to really start thinking about, Evan Neal. We'll talk about that right after this. Hey, Giant fans, for most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on that rare, hard to find card just isn't feasible for many people, no matter how much they enjoy collecting. But thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, it's now possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided and explanation of how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out. And right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/lockedonNFL and using our promo code LockedOnNFL. That's arenaclub.com/lockedonNFL, promo code LockedOnNFL for 10% off your first purchase.
Today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you by our friends at Hims. Look, sometimes those intimate moments happen spontaneously, and you want to always be ready to perform in the bedroom. That's why Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. The process is 100% online, and there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/locked on. It's HIMS.com/locked on for your personalized ED treatment options. HIMS.com/locked on. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products, which are not approved by or verified for safety and effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. Glad to have you with us. And don't forget, Sunday, Giants kick off from Munich against the Carolina Panthers, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. I will have my reaction show for you probably by early afternoon. I'm absolutely thrilled that the game is going to be so early. You guys know that I like the early games, and knowing that I could potentially be done with everything by the time the 4:00 games start, I'm just absolutely thrilled. So hope you will tune in. Also coming up on the Locked On Giants podcast, I'm going to have Emery Hunt of CBS Sports and Football Game Plan on the show. That's going to be for next week. I think that's going to be next Tuesday's show. We will talk about some of the college prospects with an emphasis, by the way, on quarterbacks, because as I just discussed before, Giants will probably be in the market for a quarterback. So we'll get Emery's takes on that. And then Tuesday also, I believe Joe Shane is going to be speaking to the media. So I'll have a reaction show on that. That'll probably be for Tuesday night/Wednesday. Thursday, I think I'm going to see if I can get a guest because we want to have a crossover show. And then Friday, we're just going to have a nice long weekend because we all need it. So hope you will tune in to all the episodes. All right, let's get back to the questions that the Giants need to start thinking about after the bye week. And I want to talk about Evan Neal at this point. Now, look, I understand why Evan Neal is behind and why we haven't seen him on the field as much. Evan Neal, as I've said before, had the setback in the spring, wasn't able to get on the field. He wasn't able to get on the field during summer. He was on PUP for most of the summer. As a result, he fell behind on the on-field work. Now, Evan Neal, to be clear, he was in all the meetings He didn't miss any meetings, but being in the meetings and actually doing what the coach is teaching, two very different things. So Neal was behind. Now, lately, he's been getting a snap here, a snap there. Last week, I think he had one snap as a jumbo tight end down by the goal line. Here's the thing, all right? Now, the injury report as of Thursday said that Chris Hubbard was ill. Now, Chris Hubbard, as far as I know, is making the trip to Germany with the team. The team, as I record this, I think they just left Newark Airport en route to Germany, to Munich. So the expectation is probably that Chris Hubbard will play on Sunday. But look, here's the thing. Long term, Chris Hubbard is probably not your swing tackle. All right. You've kind of given up, if you will, on Joshua Ezeudu as your swing tackle after one game. So you've got Evan Neal for another year. And by the way, I don't think the Giants are going to pick up his option year in his rookie deal. But you had this kid for another year. Don't you owe it to yourself at some point to see what he can do? Whether you put him at right tackle, which is where he's been working, and maybe move Jermaine Illuminor over to the left side, to see what you've got. Because right now, look, this team doesn't have a definitive answer at swing tackle. It just doesn't. So if next year your plan is to have Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Illuminor as your starters, wouldn't it behoove you to find out if Evan Neal can serve as your swing tackle? I think it would. So, if you're going to make a quarterback change, by the way, like I talked about in the first segment, why not change the tackle as well and see what you've got in Evan Neal at this point? Instead of saying, oh, he's not ready, or we don't want to upset the apple cart. If your season's over, and again, it's circling the drain right now, folks. Mathematically, they're still in it, but the season's circling the drain. Why not find out what you've got? Evan Neal, this is his first year with Carmen Priscillo, like, all the other offensive linemen. See what he's learned. Can he be any worse at this point than what they have put out there? We saw Chris Hubbard get beaten last week against the Commanders for a sack. All right. Joshua Ezeudu struggled when he got his first start this year. Can Evan Neal be that much worse? I don't know. I don't want to say he can't, but we're never going to find out unless you put him out there, right? You're never going to see just how far he's come, how much progress he's made, if you don't put him out there and give him an opportunity. And folks, I wonder if my hunch about the Giants making a quarterback change after the bye doesn't bring about more snaps for Evan Neal, whether they rotate him in at right tackle. Because remember, Jermaine Illuminor is kind of banged up, even though he's not on the injury report this week. Or do they maybe, well, I don't think they would put him at left tackle, obviously, because, they keep saying that he's a right tackle. But, find out where he's at with his technique, where he's at with his, the mental part of his game. Because if you know what you've got, now maybe you don't have to address the position in the offseason, in free agency, or the draft. Maybe you've got something there that you can work with moving forward as your swing tackle. What do you have to lose at this point? Again, if you're making the change to quarterback, you don't have to worry about the $23 million injury guarantee. You just have to, hope that Evan Neal is far enough along to where he doesn't have the problems that he's had the first 2 years, which, by the way, most of those problems are a result of him being injured. So, look, I want to see what the Giants have in Evan Neal. Because if he's not the answer, then by all means, go out and get a tackle high in the draft next year. Or sign a guy if you have to. But I'm not so sure I would say Chris Hubbard's the answer long term. And as much as I like Joshua Zudu, he hasn't shown that he's the answer long term for the swing tackle job. So, will the Giants take a look? Makes sense to do it after the bye. Whether they do it remains to be seen. All right, coming up next, we got one more young player to talk about, Jalin Hyatt, the wide receiver, and we will discuss him right after this. Hey, Giant fans, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They help you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but who might be open for the perfect role. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours when they use LinkedIn. And did you know that LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier? They've recently launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process faster. Find out why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring by posting your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, Giant fans, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if they win. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the very same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, please consider subscribing to the channel if you wouldn't mind, if you haven't already done so. Don't forget, if you do, click the little notification bell for every time I post videos, whether they be shorts or full episodes. And if you wouldn't mind as well, like the video. It all helps with the algorithms, and it is appreciated. And if you're listening to the Locked On Giants podcast on your favorite audio platform, we would also appreciate 5-star reviews. They all help at the end of the day, and they are appreciated. Trust me, I appreciate all the support I get from you guys and gals. All right, let's talk about the next big decision as I see it for the New York Giants, and that is receiver Jalin Hyatt. Now, this is interesting in that Jalin Hyatt is actually going to, or at least as I record this, it looks like, I should say, Jalin Hyatt is going to have a nice opportunity on Sunday against the Panthers. Darius Slayton, who is still in the protocol, didn't practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday. Brian Dable said that it was doubtful that Slayton was going to make the trip to Europe with the team. So Jalin Hyatt becomes the next man up. Folks, this is a receiver who, when he came out of college, basically kind of made his name on one game. And as you saw him throughout training camp and whatnot, you could see that he was still raw, that he had a lot to learn about the intricacies of running routes at the NFL level. Great speed and whatnot, but had a lot to learn. So they gave him some opportunities last year, and, it was, the results were kind of meh. So this year, they had hoped for Hyatt to maybe beat out Slayton in summer camp, wasn't able to do so. So Hyatt has become something of an afterthought because Slayton has played well. Now, here's the thing with Jalin Hyatt. Even though he put on some muscle in the offseason, he's still kind of thin. You still would like to see him get a little bit more bulky. Not too bulky to the point where it affects his speed, but he's still kind of skinny like a rail. But you also now kind of want to see what he can do. Get him more pass attempts. He's had, I think, 8 this season, only caught 1 ball. And I think he has 1 drop or 2 drops, it might be. Give him some opportunities. All right. Again, if your season is going nowhere, why not see if these guys like Jalin Hyatt could be part of the solution moving forward? See what you got in him. You've supposedly been coaching him up. He's been practicing, whether it be on the scout team or taking reps with the regular offense. See what he can do. See what he transfers from the practice field to the playing field. Because if you don't, how are you ever going to know? Are you going to sit there and say, well, we don't know what we have in him, so maybe we should draft another receiver? Folks, this team has so many needs that it has to address in the offseason. Quarterback, interior defensive line, probably add another receiver, cornerback, probably safety if they lose Jason Pinnock. All right. They've got a lot of needs that they have to address. Get some answers on these seldom used guys so that maybe, just maybe, you could say, you know what? We don't need to worry about receiver after all, because Hyatt is a guy we feel good about. We don't have to worry about interior defensive line after all, because BJ Davidson, for example, is a guy that we can feel good about. Too many questions. And I get it. The Giants, their objective right now, or at least these last few weeks, has been to win games by putting the best players on the field. I get that. But again, with the season heading down the tubes, at some point you got to find out what you have. It's kind of like, think of it in terms of a blowout loss. It's garbage time. It's mop up duty time, whatever you want to call it. But just see if you can't get these guys some quality snaps between now and when you hang up the helmets for the season, so that you know what you have to do moving forward. All right, Giant fans, that will do it for this edition of the Locked On Giants podcast. As always, I do appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back on Sunday. I will have the reaction show after the Giants-Carolina game. Hopefully, we'll be talking about a win. If we're not talking about a win on Sunday, I don't even want to think about it. It's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. But anyway, I do hope you will tune in. And again, thank you for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I will see you on Sunday.